One at the bottom of the Holy Yin Hall, pavilions and pavilions were everywhere. The ancient hall, which had a long history, could be seen everywhere. It was like a small town, and it formed the core area of the Btth sect. At this moment, the clouds and mist had dispersed. The ancient hall below was clearly visible. Around the two of them, 5 powerful auras were surging. 4 monarch cultivation. This old man in front of me is even more terrifying. Perhaps, he has already reached the heavenly sovereign. Profound Emperor felt a chill in his heart, and his expression became gloomy. He had never thought that the Btth sect would find out about their whereabouts. Elder Kui really has a clever plan. These 2 thieves have really come here. A rough voice was heard, and it was as if he was looking at 2 corpses. You guys are really audacious. Do you know where this place is? On the other side, an elder of the Emperor Path spoke in a cold voice. His tone was filled with killing intent. Xiao Yan, I'll attract them later. Find an opportunity to escape. Profound Emperor's expression was cold. His voice sounded beside Xiao Yan's ears. The latter's expression became stern as he said in a deep voice, "What kind of joke is this? Can you stop them by yourself? You're just an Emperor cultivation. What qualifications do you have to question me?" Profound Emperor sneered. He no longer bothered with Xiao Yan, and his eyes became cold. He looked at the frail old man in front of him. The old man's face was yellow, and his hair was like weeds. Even though his body was thin and small, it still contained a power that even shocked him. "I am Kui Yu. Who are you all?" The old man had his hands behind his back and his expression was indifferent. He looked at Xiao Yan and Profound Emperor and stood in the void. His turbid eyes shone with a chilling light. Someone from the Heavenly Gan sect. Upon hearing this, Profound Emperor gently smiled and spoke in a clear voice. As he spoke, he withdrew his gaze from his surroundings and secretly made a decision in his heart. "You are glib and glib-tongued." Kui Yu's expression turned cold. His calm voice contained an uncontrollable fury. Boom! Before he finished his words, Profound Emperor's body was like a clap of thunder as he suddenly rushed towards a monarch cultivation sovereign beside him. The origin chi in his hand whistled like a furious dragon, shaking the surroundings. He attacked with a killing move as soon as he attacked. Swoosh! A kick landed on Xiao Yan's body the moment Profound Emperor moved. The latter also reacted in an instant. He clenched his teeth and the starlight under his feet flickered. He was like a shooting star as he desperately rushed towards the countless large halls below. Since Kui Yu had already predicted that the 2 of them would come here, there must be an ambush along the way to the outside. Currently, he could only find an opportunity to escape by avoiding the pursuit. Profound Emperor's sudden attack had also startled the others. After they recovered from their shock, they attacked one after another. Powerful origin chi chains surged out like a storm, instantly sealing off all of Profound Emperor's paths of attack. Kui Yu stood quietly and did not attack. He glanced sideways at Xiao Yan, who had fled. He could not help but frown. The speed displayed by the latter caused him to be startled. Holy arts! Kui Yu muttered to himself with a cold expression. He looked at Profound Emperor, who was surrounded by the crowd and was still full of fighting spirit. He pondered for a while. He said in a cold voice, "Elder Mo, go and kill that kid." "Yes!" A green-colored figure rushed out from the group after his words sounded. His body flashed and he instantly chased after the figure that was about to disappear. Mo Jingshan's movement technique is comparable to the holy arts. It will be a piece of cake for him to catch up to that little bastard. However, an emperor cultivation dared to invade the Btth sect. After so many years, the prestige of the Btth sect has fallen to this level. Kui Yu's expression changed, and his eyes turned cold. The battle in front of him had become more intense. Profound Emperor's chi was astonishing, and the origin chi was incomparably fierce. When he fought 3 monarch cultivation warriors, he didn't show any signs of weakness. Something isn't right. After watching for a while, Kui Yu's expression became serious. Under the joint attack of 3 monarch cultivation warriors, although Profound Emperor's chi began to weaken, the origin chi that was surging around his body seemed to have an inexplicable suppressive effect on the 3 elders of Btth sect. What's going on? Kui Yu was slightly surprised in his heart. His brows were tightly knitted. Compared to ordinary origin chi, whether it was the yin attribute origin chi of the Btth sect or the yang attribute origin chi of the Heavenly Sky sect, they were both higher grade origin chi. This was also one of the main reasons why the two sects were able to dominate the Mingan divine domain. And now, a stranger who had suddenly barged in had actually controlled the origin chi to suppress the yin origin chi. Don't kill him, catch him alive. A thought flashed through his mind. Kui Yu shouted coldly. He was starting to feel curious and frightened. If this origin chi was controlled by more people, it would be a fatal blow to the Deacon sect and the Heavenly Gone sect. Therefore, he had to solve all the questions in his heart. Thinking of this, Kui Yu's eyes turned colder and colder. He thought that this guy could only enter the Deacon sect because of the dark origin chi, but he never thought that this guy would be able to enter the Deacon sect. It was a situation like this. In the midst of the intense battle, when Profound Emperor heard Kui Yu's somewhat anxious words, his expression turned cold. In his heart, there was a trace of understanding. In the end, he was able to see through some of the tricks of his yin-yang fusion origin chi. It was only a short while after Xiao Yan escaped. This little amount of time was not enough for Xiao Yan to escape even further. Profound Emperor gritted his teeth and used even more of his chi and blood to delay the three monarch cultivation warriors. The yin-yang fusion origin chi surged crazily, attracting Kui Yu's attention. Swoosh! A rainbow light streaked across the horizon. Not long after, another green light flashed past, and its speed became a little faster. Xiao Yan's expression was solemn. When he sensed that the monarch cultivation sovereign was closing in on him from behind, his heart could not help but feel a little heavy. His mastery of the Starlight Silent Step had not reached a perfect level. Compared to a monarch cultivation sovereign, his speed was undoubtedly much slower. If he was entangled within the inner region of the Deacon sect, it was likely that he would not be able to escape in a short period of time. At that time, if he attracted more enemies, there would really be no way for him to escape. Xiao Ao, you should block it for a while. I'll use the four-colored fire lotus. At most, I'll blow this place up. A trace of madness surged in Xiao Yan's eyes. He gritted his teeth and said. The buildings below gradually became sparser. No one knew where they were. The Xiao Ao that had been kept in his body earlier was also one of the trump cards that Xiao Yan had left behind. Are you crazy? The Xiao Ao's heart was palpitating. This was the Deacon sect, and he was crystal clear about the power of the four-colored fire lotus. If this place really exploded, then those old fogies would be so angry that they would crawl out of the ground. Xiao Yan pursed his lips when he heard this. The invisible fury in his heart gradually calmed down. However, he suddenly felt his temples throbbing. In the next moment, the Xiao Ao's shocked voice sounded. Xiao Yan, it's bad. What? Before he could react, Xiao Yan's expression suddenly changed. It was as if his body was being roasted by a raging fire. Endless pain surged into his mind. His consciousness was almost completely devoured by this pain. His body could not help but fall down. Kai! The Xiao Ao flashed out and hugged Xiao Yan. The latter's face was in pain, and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. His body was trembling, and it was obvious that he was suffering from endless pain. Looking at the Deacon sect's elder who was chasing after them from the horizon, the Xiao Ao gritted its teeth. It carried Xiao Yan and fell down. It had never thought that the thousand leaves ancient monarch fire that had not been swallowed by Xiao Yan would suddenly break through the suppression of the Xiao Yi at this moment. 1 inch veins popped out on Xiao Yan's neck, and soybean-sized beads of sweat kept dripping down from his forehead. The thousand leaves ancient monarch fire that he had yet to devour broke through the suppression of the Xiao Yi, and at this critical moment, it suddenly erupted. Even with the suppression of the other three monarch flames, the burning sensation that almost burnt his body to ashes was still hard to get rid of. What a powerful yang attribute origin chi! Behind him, an elder called Mo Jingshan raised his pale eyebrows and muttered to himself softly. No one knew what had happened to Xiao Yan, but his extremely intense aura was sweeping over, causing him to feel extremely unstable. It's almost the same as the Heavenly Gone sect's yang attribute origin chi. Mo Jingshan was secretly shocked, and a hint of doubt emerged in his heart. He increased his speed even more and descended towards the ground. It's over, it's over. Something like this has happened at this time. The heavens really want to destroy you. He carried Xiao Yan and ran aimlessly on the stone road between the palaces. The Xiao Ao wanted to cry but had no tears. Xiao Yan's chi was getting weaker and weaker. His mind was in a state of unconsciousness. He had to protect Xiao Yan's safety, but he had no way to fight with the elders of Deacon sect who were chasing him from behind. For a moment, there was no way for him to escape. His chi is about to disappear? The chi that was locked onto Xiao Yan was getting weaker and weaker, until it was almost undetectable. Mo Jingshan sneered. Although he didn't know what had happened, this was undoubtedly good news. It wasn't even his turn to attack. Follow me. In a panic, a wisp of fragrant wind suddenly rushed over. At the same time, a soft voice sounded beside the Xiaoao's ear. "Oh, it's you." The Xiaoao was startled. When he saw the sudden appearance of the white-clothed female in front of him, a trace of shock immediately surged onto his face. The latter's face was extremely beautiful. Her eyebrows were like a painting and her figure was graceful. There was naturally a kind of eye-catching aura that flowed out from her. It was Jade Fairy. He did not expect to meet her here. "Hurry up." Her beautiful eyes faintly glanced at the unconscious Xiao Yan in the Xiaoao's arms. Jade Fairy's expression could not be seen from her expression. She nodded towards the Xiaoao and her figure was light as she directly entered an ancient hall. The Xiaoao hesitated slightly. It gritted its teeth and followed after her. He had no other choice but to believe in Jade Fairy. Creak. The doors of the hall were closed. Only after getting used to the darkness in front of him did the Xiaoao see the decorations in the hall clearly. Initially, it was thought to be magnificent, but it turned out to be extremely cold. Waves of coldness came from the depths of the hall, and it was bone-piercingly cold. The hall was deep and deep. Under Jade Fairy's lead, the Xiaoao carried Xiao Yan into a room. The room was not big, but the arrangement was very exquisite. There were potted plants placed all around, and the middle was separated by a screen. There were some colorful patterns on it, and it gave off a warm feeling. What is this place? Under Jade Fairy's instructions, Xiaoao carefully placed Xiao Yan on a pure white bed, then looked at Jade Fairy, who had a complicated expression on her face. There was a sweet fragrance here, so it should be the latter's boudoir. "Don't worry, I'm the saintess of Deacon sect. They won't be able to find me here no matter what." Jade Fairy forced a smile when she heard him. She looked at the unconscious Xiao Yan and asked anxiously, "What happened to him?" The Xiaoao sat down on the ground. It knocked its head and said somewhat helplessly, "The monarch flame in my body seems to have suffered a backlash. It seems like my injuries are very serious." "Monarch flame?" A trace of surprise flashed across Jade Fairy's beautiful eyes and her expression was no longer as calm as before. She quickly stepped forward and gently placed her hand on Xiao Yan's meridians. As soon as they made contact, she cried out in shock, and a layer of disbelief surfaced on her pretty face. Why did the origin chi within this fellow's body become so blazing? It was as if there was a cluster of fire burning within her body. If it was not removed as soon as possible, I'm afraid all the organs in my body will be burned to ashes. Seeing Jade Fairy's expression, the Xiaoao's expression darkened. It pursed its lips and didn't say anything. If it knew this would happen, it would have let Xiao Yan completely refine the 1,000 leaves ancient monarch fire in Heaven Divine Mountain. It wouldn't have erupted now. "Someone is coming. I'll go deal with it and come back immediately. Take good care of Xiao Yan." Jade Fairy frowned slightly before she leisurely left. Her expression was quite grave. "That old fellow is here?" Xiao Ao inhaled a breath of air. He looked at the unconscious Xiao Yan on the bed with some worry. The latter was lying on the bed with a pained expression. Steam rose from his body due to the intense heat. Not long after, the white bed sheet below him had already been soaked by sweat. The temperature of the entire room had actually risen. "I need something that is yin and soft to neutralize it, but where can I find it now?" He muttered to himself. The Xiaoao shook its head helplessly. Then, it pricked up its ears and listened to the commotion outside. In a place like this, it had no choice but to be extremely careful. "Saint, have you seen any outsiders here before?" A slightly hoarse voice was heard. "It should be an elder of the Deacon sect. I have defeated Ling Longzi. This time, I have made a great contribution to the ceremony, but I was still imprisoned here. No one is interested in me. Why did you think of me when you couldn't catch the intruders today?" "Get lost!" Jade Fairy's cold voice was heard. It contained a trace of anger, as if she didn't give any face to the elders of Deacon sect. "I can understand the irritation in the heart of the saintess, but if Elder Kui finds out that you are protecting the intruders, I'm afraid your father won't be able to protect you." Mo Jingshan's expression was cold as he harumphed lightly. "Are you done? If you are done, then scram. What kind of trouble did I provoke here?" Everyone has to drag it onto me. Tell Elder Kui not to go too far. No matter how powerful he is, there will always be a sect master above him. Jade Fairy berated, as if she wanted to vent all of her resentment. Fine, but I saw with my own eyes that the intruders fled here. There are many halls here. I will just go and look for them. Mo Jingshan shook his head and did not wish to have a dispute with Jade Fairy. He casually glanced at the hall before leaving. This little girl is quite fierce when she is angry. After muttering to himself, the Xiaoao bitterly smiled and shook his head. What was the use of hiding it for a moment? If he did not have a way to wake Xiao Yan up, everything would be in vain. Is there any way to wake him up? After sending Mo Jingshan away, Jade Fairy rushed in. She looked at Xiao Yan, who looked even more painful, and said anxiously in her heart. Xiao Yan, he is an origin chi that is compatible with yin and yang. The Xiaoao sat on the side of the bed, and its eyes were lowered. It is different from the yin attribute origin chi that you are cultivating. His origin chi has reached a balance between yin and yang. Now that the origin chi is too strong, if you want to restore it to its normal state, you must use the most gentle and yin origin chi to neutralize it. I can't believe it's like this. After listening to the Xiaoao, Jade Fairy could not help but be shocked. She looked at Xiao Yan with even more surprise. If this continues, the extreme yang energy in the origin chi will become more and more violent. In the end, it will cause the origin chi to suffer a backlash. At that time, it won't be far from death. The Xiaoao lowered its head, and its voice carried a hint of sobbing. This was the first time he had encountered such a predicament, and there was nothing he could do about it. I will die. Jade Fairy's lovely body trembled when she heard this. Her head seemed to be buzzing. She looked at Xiao Yan's face, which was as pale as paper, and gently bit her red lips. She did not speak for a long time. You go out first. After a while, Jade Fairy's voice trembled as she spoke. Her hand was tightly clenched on her chest as a strange blush flashed across her pretty face. 0 inches, do you have a way? Xiaoao's eyes lit up and his face immediately revealed a joyful expression. His eyes stared straight at Jade Fairy, but he did not see the blush on the latter's face. Hearing this, Jade Fairy's pretty face became even redder. She took a deep breath and her red lips trembled as she said, I don't know, but if it is really as you said and needs the balance of yin and yang, perhaps I can give it a try. How do I give it a try? The Xiaoao was stunned and looked at Jade Fairy curiously. The puzzled expression on his face made the latter unable to help but lower her head. I already said that I don't know if it will work, but now it seems like this is the only way. You better get out of here, otherwise Xiao Yan won't be able to hold on any longer. As she spoke, Jade Fairy's face turned even redder. She was like a ripe apple that could be dripped with water. The charm that radiated from her body was very tempting. However, the Xiaoao's face was full of doubt, and it didn't notice anything at all. Why don't I watch from the side? If something like this happens again, I can also help him. The Xiaoao secretly calculated in his heart. Jade Fairy was cultivating the yin scroll, so perhaps it could suppress this extremely strong origin chi. Although he could not cultivate the yin scroll's secret arts, nothing was absolute. It would be much easier if he could master a bit of the yin attribute origin chi in the future. This kind of thing. What do you think? Hurry up and get out. Otherwise, I won't care anymore. Jade Fairy bit her teeth lightly like an angry little girl. She could not help but stomp her feet and shout softly. Good. Xiaoao blinked his eyes. Seeing that Jade Fairy was a little angry, he hurriedly nodded his head. He looked at Xiao Yan and quickly walked out. The atmosphere in the room was extremely solemn. Xiao Yan's breathing was weak and his face was as pale as paper. He lay on the bed without any consciousness. Jade Fairy quietly stood by the side of the bed. Her pretty eyes were complicated as she looked at Xiao Yan. She gently bit her red lips and the blush on her pretty face did not disappear for a long time. Only after a long while did she gently sigh. Xiao Yan, you saved me back in profound Yin Castle. If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be the current saintess of Deacon Sect, Jade Fairy. During the Battle of the Saints, you came out and defeated Ling Longzi. Sometimes, I wonder if there is some kind of special fate between us. Jade Fairy mumbled to herself. Her eyes shifted slightly and her gaze was complicated. No one knew what she was thinking. We meet again this time, but it is this kind of scene. This time, let me save you. As she spoke, Jade Fairy smiled slightly. The corner of her mouth revealed a trace of a gentle smile that was like a spring breeze. There was a soul-stirring beauty on her pretty face that was slightly covered in makeup. After the windscreen, her gown gently fell. In a trance, from the faint stripes on the screen, Jade Fairy's fragrant muscles were smooth and boneless, and her beauty was indescribable, causing one to suffocate. The sound of rubbing came from the room. After a moment, along with a soft sound, it became quiet again. In the main hall, the Xiaoao was pacing back and forth aimlessly. From time to time, it would look at the house where Xiao Yan was. Ever since he came out, the door had been tightly shut. No one knew how confident Jade Fairy was. "You must wake up. That old thing Profound Emperor might be dead. It doesn't matter if he's dead, you have to be fine." The Xiaoao muttered softly. It kept pacing back and forth in its original position. Its mind was filled with worries. It was already somewhat dissatisfied with Profound Emperor. It was fine if it came to the Deacon sect to seek its own death, but why did it drag Xiao Yan along? Under the siege of 4 monarch cultivation warriors in Holy Yin Hall, no matter how brave Profound Emperor was, he was finally covered in injuries. The energy in his body was no longer surging, and blood was splashing everywhere. Several of the bones in his body had been broken, and he was on the verge of dying. "All right, all of you retreat." Kui Yu was watching from the outside. When he saw that Profound Emperor had lost all his strength to struggle, he waved his hand and stepped forward with a cold expression. He stretched out his hand, and it turned into a huge Origin Chi hand. The huge hand was wrapped with numerous Origin chains, and they were emitting a buzzing sound that shook the sky. It was strong enough to trap any monarch cultivation sovereign, making it difficult for them to escape. "I'm sorry for letting you waste your energy." Profound Emperor looked at Kui Yu weakly. Suddenly, a cold smile appeared on his face. Before the huge hand arrived, his body suddenly trembled and turned into a golden Origin Chi under everyone's eyes. Taking advantage of the time when the few of them were stunned, he broke through the defense in an instant and fled into the distance like the wind chasing after the moon. "What's going on? Impossible. Could he be a supreme saint? He can even create clones." Profound Emperor suddenly turned into a golden light and disappeared into the distance. All the elders of the Deacon sect were in an uproar. Each of them shouted in shock, and none of them had the image of an elder. Kui Yu's extended hand stopped in midair. He stared at where Profound Emperor was with a gloomy expression. It took him a long time before he slowly retracted his hand. He said in a deep voice, "Did you guys notice that when he sensed us, something seemed to have been separated from his body? I think I saw it. However, the aura of that figure is extremely weak. I thought that it was a clone that was created using the medicine pill to confuse our attention, so I did not mind." A skinny old man with white hair spoke. His brows were filled with confusion. Upon hearing this, Kui Yu knitted his brows tightly and didn't say anything else. His mind was currently in a daze, and he couldn't recall the connection between the two of them. "All of you go and inform the other elders first. You must be careful. Although he is seriously injured, his strength isn't bad either. Don't fall into his trap." Kui Yu's thoughts were fruitless. He could only look at the crowd and remind them in a deep voice, "When Mo Jingshan catches that kid, everything will be clear." "Yes," the 4 of them answered, then turned around and left. That Origin Chi isn't ordinary either. It doesn't seem like it. Yin attribute Origin Chis, but if it wasn't for that, how did they manage to hide from the disciples guarding the entrance? Kui Yu stood in the void and muttered to himself, not making a sound for a long time. Cough cough. On a mountain peak far away from the Holy Yin Hall, Profound Emperor's face was pale, and he was coughing out blood. His chi was extremely weak. "Divine Lord Yin Yang, please bless me. This Yin Yang avatar is indeed a great means of escaping. It can transform into an Origin Chi and transform into 2 incarnations at will." Profound Emperor laughed lightly and leaned against a huge rock. He trembled as he took out a purple medicine pill and placed it into his mouth. After that, he endured the intense pain and sat down on the ground to recover from his injuries. The moment he sensed that he was surrounded, his Yin clone fled with an extremely weak Origin Chi. This caused the many elders of the Deacon sect to mistakenly think that it was a clone formed by a medicine pill and ignore it. After a period of delay, he transformed into a young Origin Chi and returned to the body of this Yin clone. Although this was a nearly flawless life-saving technique, it consumed a great deal of essence, energy, and spirit. Currently, Profound Emperor was really at the brink of death. Even a slight movement from him would cause pain all over his body. I wonder how Xiao Yan is doing. It's all my fault. Clenching his teeth, Profound Emperor couldn't help but throw a punch onto the ground. The intense pain quickly spread throughout his body, making him suck in a cold breath of air. Damn it. In the future, if I don't destroy the Deacon sect, I won't be called Zan Yi. Profound Emperor panted heavily as he leaned weakly against the huge rock. However, there was nothing he could do. He could only pray for Xiao Yan from the bottom of his heart. In the room, Jade Fairy gently tidied Xiao Yan's clothes. She sat by the bed and quietly looked at the man in front of her. A trace of red crept onto her face. Between her brows, there was even more amorous feeling. Xiao Yan's qi was stable. The Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire in his body had been neutralized because of the absorption of the yin and soft origin qi. The yin and yang origin qi had once again regained its balance. Sizzle, sizzle. Suddenly, the peace in the room was broken. Xiao Yan, who was lying on the bed, began to change his qi uncontrollably. Zero inside the room, a blazing qi was surging. Xiao Yan was lying on the bed, and his face had returned to normal. Every time he took a breath, the sound of wind and thunder could be heard, as if the sun and moon were being swallowed. The origin qi in the room started circulating rapidly, and started rushing into Xiao Yan's body. Jade Fairy covered her red lips and stood up subconsciously. In her eyes, after hesitating for a moment, she waved her hand and opened the tightly shut door. Outside the door, the Xiaoao shamelessly walked around. When it saw the door open, it hurriedly ran in. In an instant, it sensed the change in the source energy in the room. What's wrong with him? Seeing the Xiaoao, Jade Fairy's gaze could not help but dodge. She lowered her head and her tone was somewhat anxious. This feeling. The Xiaoao looked at Xiao Yan, who was lying on the bed. He thought for a while and then said happily, he really recovered. How did you do it? The Xiaoao looked back at Jade Fairy with joy. He could not hide the joy on his face. Hearing this, Jade Fairy's pretty face turned red and spread to her pink neck. She pursed her red lips and softly said, "It's good that he has recovered. I can't help much with the rest of the things. When he wakes up, you should leave quickly." Jade Fairy lowered her eyes as she spoke. She could not help but feel a little uncomfortable in her heart. Leave. The Xiaoao scratched the back of his head. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly looked at Xiao Yan. The latter's lips had turned pale at this moment. Blood flowed out from between his lips and teeth, as if he had suffered a great pain. It's over, it's over. The smile on the Xiaoao's face had completely disappeared. It stood rooted to the ground, not knowing what to say. Previously, the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire that Xiao Yan had yet to absorb and refine exploded, causing the yin and yang in his body to become imbalanced, causing great damage to his body. Now, with Jade Fairy's help, the yin and yang origin qi had once again regained its balance. This also meant that the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire was being suppressed. Under such circumstances, the Xiao Yi would definitely not let go of this rare opportunity. It would definitely command the other few types of monarch flames to devour the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire while it was still in a weakened state. The chances of the successful devouring had almost reached 100%. If he swallowed this half of the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire, Xiao Yan's strength would rise along with it. However, what followed next was the heart flame burning that caused Xiao Yan's heart to palpitate. After swallowing this half of the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire, the Xiaoao had a trace of clarity in its heart as to whether Xiao Yan's strength could reach that step. The former was currently at 800 Emperor cultivation. By relying on this refinement, he would most likely break through to the monarch cultivation. If the heart flame burning started now, with Xiao Yan's current condition, how could he defend against it? If he failed, there would be no way to save him. A wave of dizziness struck his eyes, and the Xiaoao's eyes revealed a trace of dumbness. Xiao Yan had clearly told him how dangerous the heart flame burning was. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had almost died. When Xiao Yan had advanced to the Emperor cultivation, he had told him everything that had happened in detail. Although it was just a narration, he could imagine how terrifying it was. What's wrong? Jade Fairy's heart trembled when she saw the sudden change in the Xiaoao's expression, and she hurriedly asked. The Xiao felt bitter in its heart. It forced a smile and told Xiao Yan about the heart flame burning. Its eyes were still on Xiao Yan. The latter's breathing became heavier and heavier. The sound of wind and thunder was howling, causing the air in the room to become even hotter. There's such a thing. Jade Fairy's beautiful eyes widened when she heard this. Her heart could not help but beat violently. One trouble after another arose. This guy's path of cultivation was actually so harsh. Woo! Suddenly, Xiao Yan raised his brows and let out a low cry of pain. Only then did his tightly shut eyes forcefully open. His eyes were scarlet red and extremely frightening. Buzz! Buzz! As Xiao Yan opened his eyes, the aura around his body suddenly soared. In an instant, he broke through 800 Emperor cultivation and rose to a higher level. Not good. This chi will attract the elders here. Jade Fairy's pretty face changed slightly. Without waiting for Xiao Yan to regain his clarity, she quickly left the room and entered the cold hall. She used her skills to prevent this chi from leaking out. Cough. A long while later, Xiao Yan finally coughed softly. He struggled to sit up on the bed. He immediately saw the Xiao and surveyed his surroundings. A puzzled expression involuntarily appeared on his face. The Xiao was just about to open its mouth when Xiao Yan's expression suddenly changed. Clearly, he had sensed the change within his body. He hurriedly held his breath and focused his mind, allowing himself to enter a state of selflessness. He frowned helplessly. The Xiao didn't say anything. Xiao Yan also noticed the heart flame burning that was about to arrive. This time, he could only rely on himself. No one else could do anything about it. In Xiao Yan's mind, he raised his head and looked into the distance. An endless crimson color that looked like magma gushed out of his eyes, turning this world into a realm of flames. Xiao Yan stood in midair with a serious expression on his face. He stared at the void in front of him. The moment he woke up, he had already grasped all the changes in his heart. The refinement of the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire could no longer be stopped. With the Xiao, there was naturally no need for him to worry. If it were any other time, he would definitely be wild with joy at the sudden increase in strength. However, at a time like this, it was a terrible thing. Although he had made some preliminary preparations for the monarch cultivation heart flame burning, it was far from reaching its peak. The sudden attack of the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire had caused the heart flame burning to arrive earlier than expected. If he wasn't careful, he would be turned into ashes. The Emperor cultivation expert in the underground tomb of Black Sand Castle would be his end. Clang! A crisp sound suddenly rang out in his mind. Xiao Yan took a deep breath and took a deep breath. A total of 10 origin chains had already been formed. Next, it was time for him to die. Swoosh! Before he could finish his thought, a scarlet flame suddenly appeared within his body. He didn't know where it came from, but as soon as it appeared, it was like a giant beast that had chosen to devour someone. It burned towards the meridians and organs in Xiao Yan's body. In an instant, a burning sensation that caused one to wish that they were dead suddenly arose. Hiss! Xiao Yan sucked in a breath of cold air, and his expression remained calm. Compared to the scarlet flame that he had used when he had broken through to the Emperor cultivation, the current flame was even more powerful. The damage wasn't any weaker than the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch fire that he had yet to refine, but compared to before. Not only had he cultivated the situation skill. Although he no longer had the essence protecting pill, his control over refining monarch Hai Tianyan was like a flowing stream of flame flowing within his body. Protecting the meridians and organs within his body, the effect was 1,000 times stronger than the essence protecting pill. After a while, the scarlet flame returned with nothing. It didn't cause much damage to Xiao Yan's body. After that, it turned into a scarlet flame and slowly dissipated. Sweat covered Xiao Yan's forehead, and he didn't dare to relax at all. This was just the appetizer, and what was below was truly terrifying. The void in front of him blurred. In the next moment, a young man in black clothes appeared out of thin air. The young man was expressionless, and his eyes were unusually bright. His black hair was draped over his shoulders, and his body was tall and straight. He was carrying a huge ruler on his back. When he raised his hand and raised his foot, a huge ruler appeared in front of him. His appearance was exactly the same as Xiao Yan's. Come. Xiao Yan's brows relaxed. He did not want to think about anything. Right now, it was time to settle things with the little me of the past. Bang! A trace of coldness flashed across Xiaoyan's pitch-black eyes. Without saying a word, his body flashed like starlight and his fist smashed down, causing the heaven and earth to buzz. In the crimson world, there were faint roars of wind and lightning, bringing along raging flames as they burned below. In the air, two figures were locked in a fierce battle of life and death, stirring up the wind and clouds, but neither of them could do anything to the other. Clang! An enormous white tiger appeared in the air. Spiritual light surged on its tiger body. Wind and lightning surged as it breathed. It seemed to have walked out from a desolate land and covered a part of the world. It had a ferocious expression as it tore through the air and arrived. Its powerful force broke through the surrounding space and brought along an extremely oppressive aura. The spirit of Heartflame had a cold expression on its face, and its white tiger art's mastery had reached the acme of perfection. It pushed out with its left hand, and the white tiger shattered the void. The 5 fingers of its right hand twisted, and the yin and yang origin chi in its body swept out, turning into a huge black phoenix above it. The black phoenix flapped its wings towards the sky, and a strong gale of flames swept up like a hurricane that swept across the world. It then followed closely behind the white tiger. Silent Sky Fist. A bright light overflowed from Xiaoyan's eyes, and the yin and yang fusion origin chi in his body surged out from all his limbs and bones. Golden light surged on his fist, and it suddenly blasted out in all directions with an irresistible force. In an instant, it seemed as if the entire world had collapsed. Golden blood splattered across the horizon. The white tiger howled in pain, and the phoenix wailed in pain. Whoosh! Whoosh! The situation continued to revolve around the wound, and the broken bones were almost restored in the blink of an eye. Golden blood filled his entire body, and the more Xiaoyan fought, the more courageous he became. His fist was like a dragon, forcefully shaking the huge white tiger in front of him. The black sharp blade on the huge body of the black phoenix was like a heavy storm, striking Xiaoyan's body. Like needles, the latter gritted his teeth. Traces of blood were left at the corner of his mouth. Every muscle on his body was trembling. Under this kind of high-load battle, the situation was also being perfected at an astonishing speed. In his mind, he did not know what had happened. When the white tiger and phoenix in front of him were finally scattered, the spirit of Heartflame's expression was calm. Both of his hands were in the shape of a mountain, and the golden origin chi on his 10 fingers pierced through the sky. In an instant, a huge azure dragon that stretched across the blue sky soared into the sky from his arms. The sound of wind and thunder resounded in the surroundings, and it once again crushed towards Xiaoyan. Azure Dragon Arts. Looking at the huge azure dragon in the sky, accompanied by the sound of thunder, it seemed as if it was going to pierce through the sky. Xiaoyan's expression was solemn. The proficiency of the spirit of Heartflame in the 4-spirit sovereign technique was exactly the same as his. In other words, the technique used by the latter, who possessed an endless supply of origin chis, was even more powerful. Kai, after absorbing the 1,000 Leaves Ancient Monarch fire, the burning spell had become much stronger, and it had also increased the capacity of the origin chi by countless times. At this moment, Xiaoyan was still brimming with energy, and his body seemed to contain boundless energy, as if he was in a state of excitement. Howl! A dragon's roar shook the sky, and the azure dragon ripped the heavens and the earth apart. Xiaoyan was like an ant in front of him. The dragon's might was boundless and shook the heavens and the earth. Its might was like a continuous tide that made people breathe. They all paused for a moment. Swoosh! With the experience of scattering the white tiger, Xiaoyan did not retreat. He took big steps forward. The golden light on his fist shone brightly like a god of war. His huge fist rose into the sky and he fought the green dragon fearlessly with his powerful physical body. In an instant, the heaven and earth buzzed. It seemed like only Xiaoyan and the green dragon were left in this world. The spirit of Heartflame stood far away from him. Its expression was cold and indifferent, and it did not seem to be affected at all. In the outside world, Xiaoyan was sitting cross-legged with a calm expression. The Xiao Ao also heaved a sigh of relief because of this. What he feared the most was that Xiaoyan would reveal an expression that said he was no match for Xiaoyan in terms of life and death. From the looks of it, no matter how things developed, he was at least in a good condition right now. The sound of footsteps sounded from behind. Jade Fairy gently walked in. Her pretty eyes were complicated as she glanced at Xiao Yan. Immediately, she revealed a bitter smile that no one noticed. This place might be a little dangerous. Mo Jingshan has been rejected by me. If Kui Yu finds out about this, he will definitely bring disaster to this place. Jade Fairy's red lips parted slightly, and her voice was soft, like a fragrant wind blowing against his face. However, the words that came out of her mouth shocked the Xiao Ao. I actually forgot about this matter. Then what should we do? Xiao Ao looked at Jade Fairy in a panic and then turned to look at Xiao Yan. The latter was currently at an important point. Any interference from the outside world could cause all of his previous efforts to go to waste. Don't worry, this hall isn't that simple. Jade Fairy smiled. With light steps, she arrived in the middle of the room. Her toes lightly tapped on the center of the room. There seemed to be an inexplicable force circulating on the ground. The Xiao Ao only felt a trance and immediately returned to normal. The Deacon sect has imprisoned me here after returning from the Star region for the sake of the Battle of Saints. After so many years, I have gained some results even though I have nothing to do. As she spoke, a smile appeared on Jade Fairy's face. This is 1,000 meters below the main hall. No one will be able to detect it. Let Xiao Yan cultivate properly here. No matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter. Jade Fairy's pretty face turned slightly red after her words sounded. Before the Xiao Ao could react, her figure had already disappeared from the room. Formation? The Xiao Ao only recovered after Jade Fairy left. It carefully looked at the spot where Jade Fairy was standing earlier and sensed the traces of the formation. Only then did it nod its head as if it had come to a sudden realization. After which, its heart relaxed. Although it was still within the Deacon sect, it was much more at ease here. In the main hall, Jade Fairy's figure appeared once again. The place she was at was exactly the same as her previous house. The Saintess is busier than me, an elder. The door that I called for so long didn't open. I couldn't wait any longer, so I came in by myself. I hope you can forgive me. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Jade Fairy was startled and then she walked out with a calm expression. In the hall, a skinny old man walked in expressionlessly and his cold eyes swept across the entire hall. Elder Kui has a lot of things to attend to every day. What are you doing here? The old man in front of her was Kui Yu. Jade Fairy did not dare to be as fearless as Mo Jingshan when the latter suddenly barged in. Moreover, Xiao Yan and the Xiao Ao had moved underground. It only took a few breaths of time for Kui Yu to barge in. If it was a little later at night. Jade Fairy gently smiled when she thought of this. She had become unusually calm. It was much more natural when she faced Kui Yu's overbearing gaze. I heard from Elder Mo Jingshan that 2 thieves have disappeared from this place. Has the Saintess noticed this? Although Kui Yu was thin and weak, his eyes were as fierce as tigers and lions, causing people to keep quiet out of fear. Elder Kui, you must be joking. I have a lot of free time here. As for what happened outside, even if the sky collapses, don't you still have you to take care of it? Jade Fairy smiled and her gentle tone carried some ridicule. This is the home of all the Saintesses. You can't blame anyone. All of you are in control of all the secret arts in the Yin Scroll. If you are harmed by others, if these 9 secret arts are leaked out, it will be the same as severing an arm of the Deacon sect. Upon hearing this, Kui Yu's pupils constricted, and he immediately spoke in a cold voice. You should know that in all these years, a few of the elders of the Deacon sect who went out to cultivate have mysteriously disappeared. The Yin Scroll and secret arts that they have mastered have also been spread out, and they are controlled by outsiders. Therefore, you have a very important role to play in this matter. We will not allow any mistakes to occur. I have heard this excuse many times. Jade Fairy smiled coldly and said calmly, if there is nothing else, Elder Kui can leave on his own. I am a little tired. Forgive me for not sending you off. You're the Saintess. Logically speaking, you have more control over the future of Deacon sect than me. I'm dead. The Deacon sect was just a loss. 2 or 3 secret arts, you are different. The 9 secrets are all in your possession. You represent the inheritance of the Deacon sect that has been passed down for tens of thousands of years, and the lives of the hundreds of thousands of people in the Deacon sect. Kui Yu wasn't in a hurry to leave after being ordered to leave by Jade Fairy. Instead, his tone became even colder. Thank you for your guidance. Jade Fairy stared coldly into Kui Yu's eyes. Her expression was indifferent and did not change at all. Teaching is not considered teaching. I only hope that you can hand over a person. Kui Yu slowly shook his head. He narrowed his eyes and spoke with full confidence.